Before the original creators of Avatar left the Netflix live-action remake, they were planning a very different version of the show. And I mean that in a way that almost nobody in the fandom is prepared for. Not you, me, or any of those people who swore they knew the reason why they left. For years, we had no idea why they left or what their version would actually look like. Just vague statements, speculation, and the occasional anonymous rumor. But recently, part of that original vision has started leaking out. And if these leaks are even halfway accurate, it wouldn't just be a different adaptation. It would be a completely different show altogether. And unfortunately, I don't mean that in a good way. So, if you will, just give me your ears for the next 8 or so minutes and let me paint you a clear picture of everything. Here is the full story. And back in 2018, when this project was first announced, it was the biggest thing in the Avatar fandom. I mean, it was sort of the only thing. The breakup was now over. The original creators were back together. They were posting enthusiastic statements, talking about expanding this world, making the series more cinematic, finally getting the support and resources they always wanted. And Netflix was there cheering them on. For just a moment, it felt like the stars were aligning. As it always has with Avatar, up until it doesn't. After that announcement, we didn't really get much for the next 2 years, just the occasional Instagram story here or there. Side note, this Instagram story right here has always interested me, like why were they doing anything in VR? Well, when I went to the premiere, I actually asked about this. So for anyone else who was interested in this, no, there wasn't some secret Avatar game being made. The answer is a lot less cool than what you would think. They were simply using VR to decide how big Appa should be. So yeah, VR was used for scaling on this series. I guess that is pretty cool. During those 2 years, there are also some VFX test leaks, some scattered statements from people who worked on the original animated series. And then in 2019, the world shut down. Production across the entire industry froze. Bryan was still reassuring everybody that they were working on the show and that updates would eventually come. However, he would go silent. And then in August of 2020, the Fire Nation would I'm just joking. They would announce they were leaving the project due to creative differences. And that's it. No real details, no timeline, no finger pointing. Netflix's statement was also just as vague, so fans filled in the blanks themselves. The common assumption was Netflix wanted to change things, and the creators did not, so they left. That narrative became gospel. I mean, every time something in the show didn't land with fans, immediately the first response was always, this is why the original creators left. Yue had a bad wig. This is why the original creators left. Aang exposits some character traits. This is why the creators left. Basically, insert thing I don't like here, answer equals creators left. Okay, you guys get the point. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I don't understand why people come to that conclusion. Especially when you take in the fact that the original series is so loved, and then you look at their writing credits and see Mike and Bryan were involved in episode 1 and 6, which are the best episodes of the series. It's only natural to come to that conclusion. But recently, a new article came out suggesting the exact opposite. A new article from Night Edge Media alleges that under Mike and Bryan, the Netflix adaptation would have changed multiple major story beats, not just from book 1, but from the entire series. And I'm not talking about minor deviations like rearranging scenes, or adding some character gags, or removing character gags. These are fundamental rewrites to the lore and characters. Before I get into these changes, I do want to clarify something. Night Edge Media has been consistently credible when it comes to Avatar leaks, and I mean that especially with Netflix Avatar. Pretty much everything he said over the last few years has turned out to be accurate. Even with Avatar 7 Havens, you guys remember everybody calling those leaks fake, and look how that turned out. Just a couple of months later, it was officially announced. And the first major story change mentioned in the article is about Yue's death. Princess Yue would be killed by an arrow during the Siege of the North. In the original animated series, the Moon Spirit is killed by Zhao. Yue, of course, has been touched by the Moon Spirit. She has a piece of its life inside of her, so she makes the ultimate sacrifice and gives back that life energy to the Moon Spirit, essentially transforming herself into the new Moon Spirit. Now, in this leaked version, she's just shot by an arrow. No huge sacrifice, just a casualty of war. Now, why would they do that? I think I actually know the reason why. One of the things you'll notice going through these next two plot points is that they line up pretty closely with some ideas that they had in their original Avatar series Bible. It almost seems like they were trying to make make something more in line with their earlier versions of Avatar, you know, before the writer's room, before Nickelodeon, before all of that. Mike and Bryan have said many times that they never want to do the same thing twice, and the series Bible is drastically different from what ended up on screen in 2005. Yue doesn't exist in the series Bible. The ocean and moon spirits also don't exist in the series Bible. And when they go over the season 1 finale in the series Bible, Aang doesn't fuse with the ocean spirit because they don't exist. He actually doesn't even enter the Avatar state at all. He just creates a massive water tornado to wipe out the Fire Nation Navy. It's a completely different thing. So if they wanted to make a version that reflected their original ideas, and they didn't want to remove a character that fans love and who is so central to Sokka's growth, killing her off in a different way just makes sense. I mean, it's kind of the only option. Now, the second change is the big one, the huge controversial change, and it's that Uncle Iroh was going to be evil, and he was going to be secretly working with Ozai to betray Zuko. Yes, you heard that right, evil Iroh. This absolutely would not have gone smoothly in the fandom no matter how you frame it, and again, this is in fact in their original series Bible. Right here, you can see it. I'll go deeper into this whole thing in just a moment because I have a lot to add here, but first, I need you guys to tell me in the comment section down below what you think about evil Iroh. Do you guys think there's any sort of way they could have pulled this one off? Because, man, I don't think so. So I actually heard about this way before this article came out from a few different credible sources, which is why I tweeted this out in 2024. So now that the cat's out of the bag, I'm gonna talk about it. From what I was told back then is that this whole situation of Iroh being evil was allegedly the catalyst behind their departure. Allegedly, Bryke and Netflix would go back and forth negotiating on what would change and what would stay the same. Netflix would win some battles, Bryke would win some others, but then when it came down to Iroh, they hit a wall. Netflix absolutely needed Iroh to remain exactly the same, and Bryke would absolutely need him to change. Neither side would compromise, so the collaboration collapsed and they walked away. We'll go over the third leak soon, especially how it possibly ties into the whole Iroh thing, but first, I need to point something out. We are only hearing leaks from one side, from alleged sources that are closely aligned with Netflix. So the information we are getting is naturally biased. With no statements, no leaks, no rumors, nothing from Bryke's side, that means the information is technically incomplete and inherently biased. I just think that's worth keeping in mind. The last plot point from the article is one that I've never heard of before, and there's nothing in the series Bible even like it. Apparently, Fire Lord Ozai was going to die by the end of season 1. Now, that statement is kind of vague. It doesn't say Aang would kill him. It doesn't say it was part of the finale. It doesn't say if it was political, accidental, whatever. It doesn't say how he dies. This is pure speculation. But if you combine this with the Iroh twist, it kind of feels like they were setting up Iroh as the final villain. Think about it. If you can't compromise on him being secretly evil, you can't compromise on that even a little bit. That means that change was essential to the larger story, the one where Iroh ends as the series' main antagonist. That's just speculation on my part though, but I think that makes sense. What do you guys think? I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. Speculation removed, just taking the plot points at face value. This kinda sounds like a mess. It would have been extremely difficult to execute well. Even if it did miraculously work, I don't think the fandom would accept it. We saw how people reacted to relatively small changes in the version we actually got. Seeing patterns in Mike and Bryan's work, them wanting to do something like this kinda makes sense. Think about how many times they said they hate doing the same thing over and over again. And if you look at how different every single Avatar project feels, The Legend of Korra is completely different from Avatar The Last Airbender. Avatar 7 Havens is completely different from both of those series. They literally destroyed the 4 nations. I mean, look at Pavi's eyes. Her pupils are diamond shaped like Rava. Same with her twin, who is basically the inverse of her. Clearly there's some lore breaking stuff going on here. Like, how are they the only characters in the entire Avatar universe with eyes like that? Anyway, please let me know where you guys stand on all of this. I will be reading every single comment, so let me know. Alright, that's it. See you guys with another video in a couple of days.